Oh, well, look, can I just pick up the Scottish National Investment Bank? I'm going to say I am really disappointed. It took the Scottish Government less than 2 weeks to write back and reject our proposals for Scottish National Investment Bank, and they didn't even take up our offer of a half-an-hour meeting to talk about it. They just sent a letter saying no thanks. I think that the Scottish Government is not going in the right direction in the economy. I don't think at the heart they've done the analysis bit. That's my problem. I think if you said to the Scottish Government just now, what's wrong with the Scottish economy, they wouldn't give you an answer. And I firmly believe that if you want to work on something, you've got to understand how it ticks, how it works. Like if you want to fix a clock, you've got to know what the cogs are. I don't think they've done an analysis of the economy, and that means that I think that they tend to want to just repeat again and again. Now, I think this is a shame. And that Scottish National Investment Bank, at the very least, I think they should have put that for proper exploration. Set a committee up and said, let's have a look at this. I think knocking it back in under a fortnight was a mistake. And if the few good ideas which are properly worked up, and I say again, thank you enormously to the New Economics Foundation, who we work very closely with. They've had discussions with Treasury to get us over the legal barriers that are contained in starting a Scottish National Investment Bank. And we did all that work and took it to government, and you just think, God, that took us 6 months. Why did we bother? There is this balance between poor thinking, lack of innovation, and let's be honest, Scotland's a small country and there's too much clientelism. So if you're already a big business, you have a lot more access than we do. I'm working with a number of groups. So I think it'd be okay to name them. People like Scottish Urban Regeneration Forum, the New Economics Foundation, Scotland's Towns, which is focused on regeneration of the towns, Nesta, which is an innovation agency, Community Enterprise Scotland, Social Enterprise Scotland, Oxfam, that does a lot of economic development work, a bunch of individuals, Engender, Friends of the Earth. We all have conversations, and all of us said the same thing. We might get listened to on poverty. We might get listened to on climate change. We can't get listened to on the economy. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Scotland's big business. And if we knock on the door, we don't get in. And what we've been discussing is whether we could form a coalition, a new economy coalition, a new economy alliance, what we're going to call it. And we're still in these discussions, so that we could create a critical mass of this thinking, which it would be harder to ignore. Now, the fact that that's as far as our ambitions got there tells you a little bit of the frustration. If it was just harder to ignore us, that'd be a step forwards. The other thing is that I've said this so often. I spent 12 years as a lobbyist, a political lobbyist for the university sector. And one of the things I said was a continuing problem is that whenever Scotland does something, it gets all, inverted commas, the players round the table. And what do you know? The players are the banks and the airports and a couple of the big manufacturers and the CBI. And they seem to see the future as being another version of their present. And I always said this, so who sits around the tables and argues for nanotechnology which doesn't exist? Who sits around the table and argues for renewable energy technologies which aren't happening in this country? So if we keep designing the economy based on the current players, how do we devise an economy which is good for the new players? Now, lobbying is becoming a problem in Scotland. It's been building up and we've had more and more of it, and it isn't helpful and it isn't the best way to do the thinking. And in truth, I rather fear now that where we've got to is that we're going to have to get the independence referendum out the way before Scotland will develop a spine. And once we've got that out the way, I pray that once we get that out the way, that the energy which has gone into both the discipline and the work to get towards independence will move somewhere else. and it will move into innovative thinking about what the new Scotland is like. It's really exciting when you start to do it. I so wish I could talk to you about some of the things we've been discovering in the White Paper Project and what you could do afterwards. But I'm afraid we're in paralysis in Scotland. We're stuck, we're partisan in the Parliament, we are waiting for the next lead on independence, we're not rocking the boat, including me. I thought about putting a slightly pissy press release out saying disappointed investment bank's been knocked back. And then I just thought, that's just going to be another criticism of government, and I better just suck it up and not put that out, because there's going to be fights that we need to fight on other things. And so you don't put that out, and you don't get to thinking. And I do lots and lots of SNP meetings, lots of constituencies invite me to go and talk, and every single time I mention Scottish National Investment Bank, everyone says, brilliant, let's do that. And they all think that it'll be met with open arms, and it's not, and it's a disappointment. So there are many, many reasons that I'm committed to Scottish independence, and freeing us to think like we're not Britain is one of them.